Tintri with us today, and what we're going to talk about is his past and how he got into technology, but also going to learn a little bit more about another side of Tintri that a lot of people don't know, the IntelliFlash side. So, how are you today, Ross?
Not bad at all,
Yeah,
thankfully.
so tell us a little bit about your background then. How did you get into technology? Where did you go to
Oh God.
school? Where did you grow up? A little bit just to get a feel for you.
I've been into technology computers for as long as I can remember. Started with Lego at like 4 years old, and I was pulling computers apart by 11. So
So
I get paid for doing my
you
hobby. It's
started
awesome.
early then. So what did you do? Did you go straight into after school? Did you go to university first?
Yeah, I went to university, got halfway through my university degree, and actually realised I was probably losing more technology knowledge while I was doing the degree than I was gaining in terms of career opportunities through the degree. Wound up quitting halfway through to get a full-time job in IT in the university itself, and that's where it
Oh,
started.
so you actually started working for the university you were at in IT.
Yeah,
Which,
I took a part-time job on with a supplier that was based on campus. So there was a PC manufacturer on campus. I got a role with them. Went through all my MCP certifications and my MCSE. Got a sysadmin role within the campus, and that was the start of my career.
which university was that?
The University of Birmingham.
Ah, so close to myself. So where are you originally from then? Did you move to Birmingham or?
Yeah, Burton
Oh,
originally,
not
not far
not
away.
too far at all. So what happened after that? Where did you go in the industry?
So took on IT roles, IT admin roles, steadily kind of moving up to larger companies, and then got a call out of the blue, probably 10 years ago now, from a recruiter saying, "Look, this is a complete step change for you. I don't know if you'll be interested, but there is a senior support engineer role for a storage manufacturer 20 minutes from your house." Now, I live in a little village just north of Derby. We're not the Silicon Valley of Europe. So hearing that there was an actual manufacturer, a multinational, 20 minutes from my house, that intrigued me. And I was just getting into storage and starting to specialize at that point. And that's how I started at Nexan. Um,
So that was at Nexan directly then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what happened at Nexan then? You started in a support role. How did you get into
Start. Mhm.
pre-sales?
So started in support, wound up covering support cases and escalations all across Europe and actually across the world. So regularly working with clients as far east as Japan, as far west as the United States, working with some of the big accounts all over the place. One of their senior solution engineers left after I'd been there probably 2.5, 3 years. And he put my name forward as a recommendation to replace him, which again, taking me out of my comfort zone. I'd been an engineer and a technician all my life. The last thing I wanted to do was go to the dark side and work in sales. um, but they convinced me to have a go. And you know what? Sales is very much being a techie, but just talking to lots and lots of different customers.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
say
still all about the technology. It's about just being honest with people.
yeah, but I think sometimes it's more pleasurable because most of the time when you're talking when you're doing a support role, you're fixing the fires, aren't you? You're putting the fires out. Whereas when you're talking to a customer about a technology when they're looking to purchase something, it's actually quite positive activity, isn't it? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
sometimes
It's
nicer.
it's quite nice having that support role as well because I do my level best to avoid the fires in the first place. I've been on the other side.
Yeah, that's it. If you've seen it from both perspectives, it's quite different. So one thing we were going to talk about is the IntelliFlash side of the Tintri range, because
Mhm.
some people may have known it as the Tejal product in the past, but its name changed to IntelliFlash, and it's quite a large product line as well. There's a number of different model types, but again, it's might be quite unique to the people that have traditionally seen the VM store side. So I believe you're going to use a couple of slides. Is that correct?
Yeah, if that's
Yeah,
okay,
no problem at
we'll
all.
share the
So
deck
if you
and
want
I
to
can
get your
walk through.
slides ready,
Yeah, lovely. Let me share my screen. How's that looking?
there we are. We have a nice set of slides ready to go.
Brilliant. Shall I start?
Yeah, you go for it.
Lovely. So, as you say, a lot of people know Tintri for the VM Store product, and that's what Tintri was famous for. But of course, Tintri now is part of DDN, with the enterprise arm of DDN. Um, and this was a strategic move for DDN. So they wanted a broad range of primary storage solutions. So we've now got Tintri, we've got Next Store, and we've got IntelliFlash. Um, I personally think IntelliFlash and VMstore go very, very nicely kind of side by side. VMstore has that laser focus on virtualized workloads, absolutely excels at what it does, but it only does virtual storage. So it's only storage for primarily VMware, Hyper-V, bit of Zen Server, really focusing on that workload. Where IntelliFlash shines is when you've got larger accounts or more diverse accounts that need a broader range of features. You've still got some of that VM awareness. It's still got some features that really kind of fit neatly with that intelligent infrastructure concept, but it's a much broader product range, which you'll see. And
Okay.
whenever I'm introducing, sorry, Lee.
I said okay.
Whenever I'm introducing IntelliFlash, I normally start with just going back in time a little bit to how we used to talk about the product. And IntelliFlash it's one of the modern generation of storage arrays. So this really evolved in the Flash era. Everything in the lineup has got Flash or NVMe in there somewhere. It was designed as a high performance platform for a broad range of use cases. But whenever I talk to people today, they don't really care about needing dedupe, compression, inline data reduction, block file workloads. It's pretty much a given. It's table stakes. If you look at any modern storage array, they can all do that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? And everybody that's competing has got roughly the same set of features and functionality.
Yeah. I know, my pet peeve at the minute is dedupe, because everyone's got dedupe, everyone's got compression. Half the time it's the same compression algorithm, and dedupe. Well, to be honest, yes, you can do variable block size and some nice little tweaks, but fundamentally, if you've got to block a data twice, it's gonna be deduped. Doesn't matter which vendor you go with, you're going to get basically the same results. It is a level playing field, but people will come out saying, "Oh, you're going to get 5-to-1, you're going to get 4-to-1." It's like, well, actually, the global average is about 2-to-1.
Yeah, it all depends really on the actual data itself, isn't it? Whether it can be deduped, and also compression relies on it being compressible. So a lot of things we have these days, especially like videos and images and things that we store, aren't compressible because they're already compressed.
Yeah, the good news is what you tend to find is some data sets naturally compress, some data sets naturally dedupe. Running the two together is pretty effective. And it's fairly consistent. Oh, doorbell, perfect timing.
Well, people know it's live then, don't they?
Yeah, we rehearsed this carefully. So I typically say, look, the classic old features are the table stakes. Everyone's going to have kind of block and file capabilities and scalable capabilities. And you know what? You're not typically looking at a rack of storage these days. I mean, if you're talking to an enterprise with an old 3-part, they're probably going to have a couple of racks of data. That's not where you're going. So a lot of that really has become kind of irrelevant. Almost every estate I talk to, when I say, how do you manage your storage on a regular basis? Are you going to the storage array, creating LUNs, mapping them out, creating fiber channel zones, permissions? Are you doing all of that regularly? And they say no. 99 times out of 100, what people are doing is they're going to VMware, they're creating a virtual machine, a couple of clicks, they're done. They're never touching the storage array. And that's been a big change over the last 3 to 4 years. Virtualization has really exploded. VMware statistics say that 99% of the Fortune 1000 use VMware. And this is not just something that a few people use now. Everybody is virtual. And the world has gone flash. Most enterprise accounts today, we're talking all flash. You're talking a 2U appliance for the majority of accounts. You can do half a petabyte of flash in 2U. So it's not a rack of storage anymore, it's a couple of U, which is great for colo, it's great for modernizing a data center. But if you're not making changes regularly on the storage array, you're not going on there often, one of the most important features, honestly, is it's got to be easy to use. If you're not making changes for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, it's no good needing a 2-week training course. It's got to be simple.
Yeah.
I can teach you IntelliFlash in about an hour flat.
Yeah, I think that's key for everything nowadays, simplicity and ease of use.
Yeah, totally. One of the other things is, if you're not going to be logging in regularly and working on the array, you want to know that it's healthy. So you've got that peace of mind through remote monitoring. So 24/7 monitoring, 365 days a year. We've been doing it for years for thousands of customers all over the world. So that includes all the kind of proactive alerts that you expect. So if we see signs that something's going to fail ahead of time, we'll open a support ticket automatically. We'll raise that with you, get the parts out before it even fails. You've got all of that kind of peace of mind to say, look, you don't need to touch this regularly. And the other core feature is we natively work with hypervisors. So IntelliFlash and VM Store, they're the only primary storage arrays that I know of on the market that have native monitoring at the VM level. So you can monitor performance of every virtual machine in your estate. With IntelliCare, you get 3 years worth of history for every virtual machine. That is one of the biggest features that customers that have rolled this out love, because it solves the problems that you're going to have on a regular basis. And I think I've got a small child letting a dog through.
Don't worry about it.
We're carrying on the theme of a live broadcast here.
Yeah, well, our lives are very different these days, aren't they? Working from home in this new COVID-19 world.
I don't think I've had a call in the last couple of months that's not involved children or animals at some point.
What was the old adage? Never work with children or animals?
Yeah, and we're all doing it. Nobody listened. So where was I? So yeah, hypervisor awareness, VM awareness. The best way to understand why this is useful is some real world examples. If you're trying to troubleshoot performance, someone comes to the business, someone comes to the IT team saying, this application's gone slow. If you're virtualized and you can just see the latency in vSphere, and you can see, okay, I've got latency happening on this virtual machine. Right, you need to know, is that happening at the VM? Is it happening in the hypervisor? Is it the network layer? Is it the switch? Is it the network connections to the storage? Is it the HBA in the storage controllers, or within? There are literally a dozen items in that chain. And a fault with any one of those can cause a performance problem.
Okay.
If all you can see is the latency on the VM in the hypervisor, you don't know where the problem is. If you can see that VM at that exact same point in time and see the metrics on the storage array, you can really quickly say, okay, I'm seeing no latency on that VM on that day at that time. We know it's not the storage. Well, the interconnect in almost every modern estate, most are Ethernet, there's still some fiber out there, but it's pretty simple. A SAN network, it's not rooted, it's not complex, it's not going to change. You can actually just go to the switch and say, right, do I have any transmit errors? Do I have any CRC errors? If you're not seeing errors on any of those data paths, well, you've pretty much ruled out all the networking piece. You're right, you're at the hypervisor already.
Yeah.
You can do a live vMotion, move that VM to another host. If it follows the VM, you're looking at a software problem with the VM. If it stays on the host, well, there's a good chance there's something physical around that host that needs looking at. But just that ability to see both sides really streamlines that process.
Yeah, because I think sometimes it's been a challenge in the past with different groups of people blaming each other. That finger pointing, no, it's not us, it's the storage. No, it's not us, it's the network. Oh, it's not us, it's the VMware estate.
Yeah, but that happens because you don't know what's going on, because you haven't got the data. So having the data is hugely important. But honestly, that's not the most common scenario. Hardware failures these days are really rare across the board. Compute, networking, storage. This is a mature IT stack we're working on today. What's more common is something's changed. And that's where it shines. When you get someone coming into IT saying, this application's gone really slow, fix it, what have you done? And you look at the data and you go, okay, yeah, we can see actually it's really heavily loaded right now and it's struggling a little bit. But we can see that 2 weeks ago, last Wednesday, it started running 10,000 IOPS more than normal. What changed on that day? Because that's what happens. Someone will have run a script, or they'll have started a workload, or they'll have changed the way they're using an application, or started with a new feature. Seeing the behavior and the pattern of I/O and seeing when the pattern changed can really solve problems quickly.
Yeah, so it's a bit
because
like Amazon had a few years ago. Somebody ran a script and all the S3 storage went offline for a little while. And it's just people, isn't it? Doing the wrong thing.
These things happen. And a change that someone made a couple of days ago, they won't necessarily think that that's the cause of something that's only being visible today. So seeing that background, seeing the pattern, and you get 3 years of history at the VM level, it's huge. That's the feature that when we deploy this and customers see it and actually use it, that's what they love. So probably enough talking about that. The other nice thing with IntelliFlash, and actually the next 2 points kind of go hand in hand, you've got single pane of glass management. So you've got a single console for managing as many of these as you deploy across any number of data centers. So again, following that theme of simplicity. And simplicity in larger estates is one of the real strengths. So IntelliFlash is one platform that has a really broad range of use cases. So we can cover file storage, we can do block storage, We can be primary storage for hypervisors. We can do anything from 20 terabytes of hybrid, to all flash, to high density petabyte scale flash, to a 10 petabyte kind of bulk archive. Really broad range of speeds and feeds and capabilities. Everything from ultra high performance NVMe right down to entry level hybrid. But it's one platform. And every single one of those models runs the same firmware. It's managed the same way. They've got identical feature sets. It means once you've learned to manage one of these, you can manage them all. And it means that if an estate evolves over time and requirements change, it doesn't matter, because it is still the same consistent system. The current firmware we're running on the latest generation platforms also runs on the previous 2 generations of hardware. So there are clients out there that have been customers for years. We've got customers that have been on board for a decade that are running up to 4 generations of IntelliFlash. They still have a single console to manage it. And the lion's share of their estate is actually running the same firmware.
Yeah, because you do have some manufacturers where, they've got 3 different model types in the infrastructure, and they've got 3 different user interfaces and ways to manage them.
I thought that was the standard.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, and that for me is one of the big strengths. It's the fact that it is so flexible. The other thing that's become really relevant is the fact that the default user interface, that cloud management console, is secure by design. And this is it's a deliberate feature, because if you look at what people are doing, it comes back to what I said a few minutes ago, that you're not making changes to storage on a regular basis. Day-to-day administration, you're not going in and creating LUNs, you're not making changes. The storage just sits there and runs and does its job. Once it's deployed day one, ideally, you're leaving that alone for 3, 4, 5 years. It's just going to work. What you're doing day to day is you're sitting in vSphere. You're sitting in Hyper-V. You're managing your estate. You're not making changes on the storage. And if you're not needing to make changes, what you need from a management console is different to what it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. What you need today is, right, is my storage healthy? Have I got enough capacity? Can I plan for capacity growth? Can I raise a support ticket easily? Can I see the health and the details? Can I see performance data? And again, you can see performance down to the VM level from that console. All of that is available in a read-only console that has 0 access to data. So all of the monitoring, all of the day-to-day activities, and we've not had a customer really come back and say, actually, you don't have enough capabilities here. It tends, once people see a demo of IntelliCare, they tend to say, actually, that kind of makes sense. Everything you want is there at your fingertips for an array that can be global. We've got accounts with 80 arrays across 13 data centers, 7 countries, 5+ petabytes of data, 1 console. So it's just simple, but it's secure because it's read-only. And the combination of that read-only interface and hardware snapshots has become really relevant this year. Hardware snapshots, for the past kind of 4 or 5 years, they've been a nice feature to have. They've not been a primary feature that storage arrays are using, with the exception of when you've got Veeam integration. Everyone with Veeam wants to offload that, so VMware's not doing software snapshots. But in the main, people don't rely on hardware snapshots. They're aware they're there, that it's not a primary feature. Since January, we've seen a new type of threat hitting the market. So 2 accounts that I work with have been hit directly. And this is an encryption virus that's now targeting a backup server.
Yeah, that was something that was going to come along, wasn't it? Because if you're looking at trying to use some kind of crypto type attack and encrypt all the files, if they've got backups, it's quite easy for them just to roll back to those backups. Yeah. So if you target that backup environment first, it doesn't give them the option to do that.
Exactly, and I think what the virus writers have realized is that the backup world has moved to backup to disk. More and more enterprises are moving away to tape. You've got Veeam, you've got Zerto, you've got Rubrik, Cohesity. You've got some really good products, all based around the backup being live, because you get a faster backup, you get faster restores, you can use it for DR, you can use it for log analysis and other capabilities. There's a lot more value in doing that, but you've added a risk, because all of that data is now online and the backup server has access to all of it. So I've worked directly with 2 clients that have hit this. One of our big service provider clients, when I mentioned it to them, they said, yep, we've had a customer hit by this as well. I spoke to a new service provider prospect 2 weeks ago. So they're looking at bringing IntelliFlash on board for their back-end estate. And they said, yep, we've had a customer exactly the same. So that's 4 people that I've personally heard of that have been hit by this. And the virus gets on that backup server and it starts encrypting the backups and the primary estate all at the same time. What it's done is it's meant that hardware snapshots on the storage array are really, really important now, because that is an extra level of protection that goes hand in hand with your existing backups. So whether you're running Veeam, Rubrik, Zerto, Arcserve, Commvault, doesn't matter. Run that as your primary backup, your primary DR, but have storage snapshots as well. Because what you've now got is a copy of your data that's not in the regular data path. It can't be modified by anything running on the network. They are effectively instantaneous. There's no impact to production, no impact to performance. It takes a little bit of extra capacity on your storage array. It's well worth it. You've still got that rapid recovery point. So you've got that offline protection you get with, say, tape or cloud, but tape and cloud backups take a long time to restore. A snapshot is seconds. You can literally restore a whole estate in a fraction of a second if you need to.
It's like that Monopoly card that people used to like, the get out of jail free card, isn't it?
I like that. Yeah, good analogy. Yeah, it is. There's not a massive overhead to running it. The level of protection it gives to a business and to the business data can't be understated. And for me, the combination of having hardware snapshots and a secure user interface is a really powerful combination, because that you're adding to any business that deploys this genuine protection against encryption viruses and against the spear phishing attack that's targeting the IT team, because we've seen that as well. Because if you're not logging in with permissions to change the storage, very difficult for an attacker to get into the storage array and delete those snapshots. So that is one of the biggest strengths of IntelliFlash. So hopefully that's made sense. That's how I normally introduce it. We've gone around the houses and taken a bit longer than normal. I've got a few more slides if we've got time to go into the details.
I think we're running out of time now. We're hitting 22, 23 minutes. So what we could do, though, is come back another time and cover those areas later.
Yeah, absolutely. Count me in.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. That's been great. Really, detailed view, and also seeing the real benefits of the IntelliFlash platform. And a couple of things people might not, be looking at is this, ability to hardware snapshot because of the, the get out of jail free card option if your primary backup is actually compromised in some way.
Exactly. And we've actually got customers using this as a backup target as well, and using hardware snapshot for the same reason there. It means you've got a way of protecting your backups too.
All right. Thank you very much, and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Lee. Speak to you soon.
Bye.